Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan and I'm here to bring you another FPL video. So in this one we're going to be talking about our Game Week 5 watch list. I break down 5 key players' statistics and heat maps to help your decision making for your teams. If you are new around here and you are enjoying the content, then please do consider subscribing to the channel. Hit that notification bell to be notified of all future content releases. It is completely free and you can always change your mind, of course. And if you enjoy the content also, then consider smashing that like button below. So let's jump into the watch list. Number 1, we've got this man here, no surprises, Erling Haaland. I think ultimately at 64.7% ownership, maybe he's not necessarily someone we should be considering bringing in for a lot of managers. Really, it's kind of more of a hold discussion for those of us that do have. I think ultimately, look at those statistics, look at that heat map. He's exactly where we expected him to be. He's a natural born poacher, really, in terms of where he's cropping up, and he looks like the real deal for a number 9, right? He's old school but strong, you know, and pretty much got that finishing finesse touch that we knew he had in his Dortmund days, and he's just put it all together for City and already registered 6 goals and 1 assist in terms of his returns for FPL. So 41 points overall, great underlining numbers, and ultimately I think if you haven't got him yet, even ahead of that fixture run that potentially is more congested than ever before, I think ultimately he's still one to go for. I think Pep has come out publicly and said that he won't be starting every game, but even if he starts, you know, one out of those 2 or even 1 out of those 3 and comes on for 30-minute cameos against certain teams, I think he could still register an assist, still register goals. He doesn't need that much time. He scored his hat-trick, I believe, in something like a 15-minute window, right? So I just think he's a solid option, which is why he makes the number 1 spot in the watch list here. So moving into the second option here, again, no surprises. He's made my watch list for the 3rd week in a row and finally now been transferred into my team. So last night there was a price rise of another 0.1 million to 6.5. I brought him in yesterday for Mason Mount before that price rise happened. I believe his ownership is a little bit different to this. I actually produced this graphic prior to more ownership and that price rise, although I updated the price this morning, so apologies, I'm not sure why I didn't update the percentage either, but there we go. But justified either way. I think 28.2% ownership is still valid. His heat map suggests that he's a little bit more kind of all over the pitch than maybe where we'd like him to be, but he's still cropping up in the right areas. As you can see, he's still in and around the box with a 0.68 expected goal involvement or expected goal, sorry, and then expected assists of 0.36. Still great numbers. Leeds, ultimately, I did think Brighton would be a difficult test for them, and it did prove to do so. He still had, I believe, 5 shots. They weren't necessarily all kind of goal-threatening shots, but he looks the most busy, right? Especially with Bamford out. He's the most advanced of the Leeds attack. I just think 6.5 million in those next 3, Everton, Brentford and Forest, he looks like great value. So if you haven't considered him or you're looking for a cheap midfielder option, then I highly suggest Rodrigo as an option. So moving into the 3rd player on this list, maybe slightly the more knee-jerky out of this list for everybody, but it's Luis Diaz. He's got that on the back of the 14-point haul against Bournemouth. He does make this list. He was a consideration for me as an alternative to Rodrigo. I thought about moving Mason Mount on 100%, so he was always going to be the sell for me. Luis Diaz and Rodrigo came in as really the kind of top 2 targets for me. After looking at the statistics and just having a little bit of a review, ultimately I thought I'd attack the Leeds fixtures rather than this man here. I don't think there's anything wrong with going with him still ahead of Newcastle, Wolves and Everton. He still looks like a great option. He's already registered 3 goals, 27 points, outscoring Salah already at 5 million cheaper. Well, 4.9 now after rising to 8.1. And just proving that he seems to crop up in the right places at the right time in terms of goals. I do think that the only negative side to him, and maybe something that I thought about this morning, I did add him on the watch list, like I say, maybe more as a kind of knee-jerk reaction than anything else. But one of the negatives about him is that ultimately Jota and Nunez aren't playing at the moment. Once they return into the team, I would say that we need to keep a very close eye, or especially if you're an owner, I would say keep a very close eye on his positional play, because at the moment he seems to be on the kind of edge of the 6-yard box. He's in the middle of that box, you know, the left-hand side of it. When Nunez and Jota return, I'm not so sure that he'll occupy that space, because they will. They will want to be in those positions to score, like his first header against Bournemouth. If you watch the 9-0 highlights or you watch the game live, Firmino's cross was exactly where you'd anticipate Jota or Nunez to be. He was literally almost on the penalty spot when he scored that header, right? So I think that may adjust slightly when they return. So something to consider when thinking about bringing him in. Although still saying that, I think his XG per 90 for 8.1 million is pretty much the best of that price bracket. I think he's looking really, really good. Liverpool looked obviously much better, which we did anticipate after their results so far. And I think those fixtures are even more, kind of favourable for them to attack, right? So that's why he's made the watch list. And moving into the fourth individual, maybe a little bit of a surprise. He's kind of here really for kind of a spicier pick for a Brighton defender. Apologies for the picture. I couldn't find a good picture of him in a Brighton shirt. But ultimately, Estupinan, apologise if I've absolutely butchered that name, but he comes into my thinking a little bit now, because he looked like a pretty much a replacement for Cucurella. He hasn't been nailed in terms of the full 90 minutes yet. I think he's played about 90 minutes across the 2 matches so far. Cameo appearance in his first match, and then I think he registered about 70 odd minutes in the last game against Leeds. So banking in that clean sheet after the 60 minute plus mark. No attacking returns as of yet, but an expected assists value of 0.35 per 90. So it's actually quite high in terms of defensive options for assists. I think he's 10th on the list in terms of expected goal involvement overall, which is very, very good. And for 4.5 million, arguably for a team that defensively are looking more solid than many across the Premier League right now, ahead of 4 very favourable fixtures, I just can't help but feel like he might be a bit of a kind of gem or a hidden gem. I just think that Dunk, Veltman and Sanchez really are the obvious picks that most people will go for. But it wouldn't surprise me if this guy crops up with a double-digit 12-pointer somewhere with a clean sheet, an assist and free bonus. Because, you know, against Fulham, Leicester, Bournemouth and Crystal Palace, you could argue that there could be one of those in there for any of those fixtures, really. So definitely one to watch. Maybe a little bit too early to go in for him. If you are a Brighton fan and you are watching this video, then please do let me know in the comments below on what you anticipate from him in terms of minutes, because I think if he's solid and gets, like I say, that regular nod from Graham Potter, I think we're going to see great things from him. So that's why he makes the cut for the Game Week 5 watch list here. And last but not least, player number 5 is Harry Kane. So I think really it's a little bit maybe unfair to put him last on this list. Ultimately, if we're looking at kind of who's the best versus the worst, I don't think Kane is a worse option out of the people that I've already explained here. But it's more to do with the structure of our FPL teams. He looks like most people have gone for either Kane or Haaland, not both of them. If you have gone with both of them, or you've got a wild card and you're considering what to do, I think ultimately, even over the next 4 fixtures, Harry Kane is arguably a transfer you should be making, because his statistics are still backing up what we expected from him. He scored 4 goals. He's on 23 points. Really, that's kind of, it's the only reason he's reduced a little bit there is he's missed a penalty, a yellow card as well in the last game. He could have had, obviously, that hat-trick against Forest yesterday. His numbers are looking great. He's had 2 big chances, 10 chances created. I just think ultimately he's exactly what we want from a number 9. He's in the box, in the right areas. It's just maybe from his assist point of view, it's really Son that's holding him back for those numbers. He's not ticking as well as we would have expected him to do on the back of last season's performance. But he looks like he's the sacrificial player that comes off a little bit early for Richarlison. He seems to be getting 70 odd minutes. And then Perisic seems to be another alternative substitution for Conte. Harry Kane looks absolutely nailed. So I think if you want somebody secure, if you want someone that's going to tick you over almost continuously, I think, through the season, even with that Manchester City game in Game Week 7, you could argue that he could still score in that game, right? So I think, like I say, he's only made the watch list at the bottom because of the structure of our teams. Maybe he's a little bit too difficult to get to. But if you are on a wild card or you're considering moving for that third striker, then I think Harry Kane should come into our thinking. So guys, going to wrap up the video there, and I hope that you found the content useful. Please let me know in the comments below if you have transferred any of these players in, if you're considering anybody else moving forward. And of course, again, if you are enjoying the content, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Smash that like button below. And I've got a team selection video coming up also today, and I will be doing a deadline stream tomorrow for that all-important midweek fixture. So tune in for those videos, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.